Did you know that 50 to 100 million hand tools are discarded annually throughout the whole world? I've always been fascinated by the potential hidden and forgotten things, especially old tools that have been left to rust or gather dust in attics or garages. There's just something beautiful about giving them a second chance at life, don't you think? Hey, I'm Sylvia with Backyard Brushes in Fountain City, Wisconsin. And with a little bit of creativity, I'm hoping these relics can be turned into some one-of-a-kind decor masterpieces. So join me as I challenge myself to transform some old and some rusty tools into stunning decor pieces that will hopefully blow your mind. So let's roll up our sleeves and let's get creating. And I decided for this video that I want to transform some trowels. And I didn't realize how many different types of trowels they are. They're used for spreading mortar or cement. So I'm going to transform 3 different trowels. 2 of them are going to be with metal and the other one's going to be rust. But first, I do need to clean off the rust. So to do this, I usually take the tools and I soak them overnight in a mixture that is of estimated 50-50 vinegar to water, and they wanted to float, so I had to use one of my spray bottles to help hold them down overnight. After a good soaking, I just removed all the tools from the vinegar and water mixture. And then you can see like how dirty that vinegar and water was. It like really did take off a lot of that surface rust. So then just using I think it's called a Brillo pad, steel wool pad, I just went over and scraped off the remainder of the rust, or the majority of the rust from the tools. And you can see how dirty they are, but it actually wipes off really clean after it's had a good soaking in that vinegar and water. And then I just used a baby wipe and paper towel to go over it and clean off the remainder of the, vinegar, water, grimy mess that I left on it. But it really does come off really easy when you use this method. Which in all honesty is probably why it's the method I choose, because it is so easy. And then you can see here how much cleaner it is, and all the greasy, grimy crud on my baby white paper towel. And then I just repeated that same process for the other tools. Now for project 1, I'm going to start with the small trowel, and you can see how much cleaner it is. It's got the majority of the surface rust is gone, but there's still a little rust on there. I did spray it with Rust-Oleum to prevent further rusting, and it gives it a little something for the paint to hold on to. I painted the handle with Apothecary by DIY, and then I sealed that with the Big Top by DIY, and I also went around the metal handle. Choosing the Bohemian Blue in DIY, I just went right over the Apothecary. And I only gave it 1 coat of Apothecary and 1 coat of Bohemian, and it seemed to work really well. Then I'm just using a sandpaper sponge to go over that handle and distress it, bringing some of that Apothecary green through the blue. And here you can see that effect. I had just wiped it down with the baby wipe. Using Rust-Oleum chalk paint and white linen, I am just going over the edges, and then I am going to give the metal surface, I don't know, is that the trowel part? I don't know my tools that well as much as I love them. And I'm just gonna coat it in white. And I did give each side 2 coats of the white paint. And I always do the backs of my project because I just feel like it finishes it off. Once that was complete, I used Big Top by DIY to seal the handle. I grabbed an IOD distressing stamp, crackle stamp, and I'm just using some black ink to get it nice and moist. And I am just gonna lay that stamp right on the metal portion of the tool and give it a nice little crackle effect underneath my decoupage. I just like the extra layer of texture that it gives using this technique. And I just press down firmly and lift up on the stamp. I have chosen one of my favorite bird napkins to decoupage onto the trowel. So just taking a little bit of DIY liquid patina on my fingers to get them nice and tacky. I place my fingers on the corner of the napkin and I peel off the first layer of the napkin. Most napkins are either 2 or 3 ply, so you just want to make sure that you remove the excess and you only have the 1 layer of napkin with the print. I did go over the trowel with my heat gun just to make sure that permanent ink was set. Then using the liquid patina, I am going to cover the metal portion of the trowel, just a little bit of the corner to get my napkin placed. And I'm just trying to make sure I have like the majority of the bigger bird, and I kind of like, you know, the head of the smaller bird on the bottom. So, and then I'm just pressing down where I want it so that it's in place. I'm going to give the napkin some slits up on top so that I can fit it around the handle before I add more liquid patina. And you can use whatever decoupage medium that you have. I just prefer the liquid patina, but we all have our favorites and different tools in our toolbox. So I'm just going to give the rest of that trowel metal piece a layer of the liquid patina and gently lay my napkin down using my fingers to press it into the patina or the decoupage medium. And just kind of cutting around that handle. And completing the top or bottom portion, I guess it's the top portion of the decoupage. And napkins are a lot thinner than like rice paper or decoupage paper. So pretty much once you lay it down, that's where it's going to be. And you just want to be a little bit more gentle as the napkin can rip easily. So I'm just making sure I have enough decoupage medium on, and I'm going to bring that napkin up and place it around the handle of the trowel. And then using my scissors, I'm just going to gently trim the napkin and being careful just around that handle. And using my finger sander, I'm going to use an up and down motion, going around the napkin in the tool gently, since it is a napkin, and just up and down. I do not want to go sideways, as that could risk tearing the napkin more. So I'm just gently going all the way around the napkin in that up and down motion, and the napkin is going to peel off the trowel. Leaving nice smooth edges. Using liquid patina, I am going to seal the napkin onto the trowel. And again, you can use any kind of decoupage medium that you prefer or that you have in your toolbox. Unfortunately, the trowel did not have a hole in the handle, so I am just going to tie some lace on the trowel. And I'm not good at bows or any of that stuff. So I decided, after a couple different trial and errors, I am just tying the lace into a knot, forming a loop, and I can then either hang the trowel from the wall, or I can lay it sideways or use it for a shelf setter. For project 2, I'm using this larger dowel. I believe it's used for cement. I'm going to use Highlander by Fusion. It's become like one of my favorite reds. And I'm going to give the handle, the wooden handle, 2 coats of red paint. And then I'm also going to give 2 coats of the paint to the metal portion on the back of the dowel or trowel. And using the chalk paint White Linen by Rust-Oleum, I gave the front of the trowel a coating of white. And then using DIY liquid patina, I have chosen one of Connie's, the painted photographer, Connie's Lines and Designs bird papers. And I'm going to give the metal part of the trowel a coat of the liquid patina on the top half, and then I am going to place the rice paper right over the liquid patina. And rice paper is thicker and has a little bit more flexibility when working with it. You can move it around a little bit. I had kind of figured out my placement and had creased where I wanted to start laying my paper down. So I am just placing the paper right over the trowel, and I am going to just press that paper right into the liquid patina. Then I'm just gonna, using the liquid patina, and mind you, you can use whatever is your favorite decoupage medium. I'm gonna give the bottom half of the trowel a good coating, and I'm gonna press the remainder of the paper right onto the trowel. Using my finger sander, I am just going to use the up and down motion, going all the way around the dowel and the rice paper. to get that clean edge. And you can just see how easy it comes right off, just up and down, and that paper just comes right off and leaves a nice clean edge. After I removed my edges, I realized as much as I was paying attention to the vertical placement of the paper, I didn't pay as close attention to the horizontal placement. And I have a piece of the edging of the metal dowel that wasn't covered by the paper. So what's wonderful is Connie uses DIY paints to paint her rice papers that she paints by hand. So I am mixing up weather wood and some summer crush, and I am going to paint the edges and fill in the area and blend it in to the rice paper. Using the liquid patina, I'm going to seal the rice paper onto the trowel. And again, you can use any decoupage medium of your choice. Just make sure to seal the project. For the back of the trowel, I decided it looked a little too new. And although Fusion mineral paint doesn't not need to be sealed, I am going to use Fusion's antiquing glaze, and just to give it more of a vintage vibe or a look, so it doesn't look so shiny and new. So I'm just going to paintbrush. Using the paintbrush, I am just going to spread the antiquing glaze on the back of the trowel over the Highlander red. After letting it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, I'm using a paper towel and I'm just wiping off that excess glaze. And I'm just repeating the same process on the wood handle of the trowel. I am coating it in the Fusion antiquing glaze. And I just let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes before using a paper towel to wipe off the excess. For project 3, I am going to use this wooden trowel that I picked up at the Restore. I believe this one might actually be handmade, and they use it for cement. And whenever I'm at the Restore, I always grab these wooden trowels because I just think they make great stands for shelf sitters. And I'm just using some wood putty to fill in the holes where the screws are, and I'm just giving each hole a good squirt, I guess, and then I'm just going to use my fingers to make sure that they're fully covered. The wood filler sit and dry, I took the trowel into my garage and using my electric sander, I just sanded it down so it was nice and smooth. And I'm not quite sure why, but I did choose Apothecary by DIY and I painted the back of the trowel. Then using Vaseline and a small brush, I just randomly rubbed the Vaseline in areas, just random areas all around the back of the trowel. I then went over it with weathered wood and painted the whole back of the trowel. And it did take 2 coats of the weathered wood. Using wrong. First, I started out with burlap by DIY, and I gave the front of the trowel a coat. It wasn't the color I wanted that matched my transfer, so I went over the burlap with the crinoline by DIY. Using the Kindest Regards stamp by IOD and some sepia colored ink, I just inked up the stamp really well, got it nice and juicy. And what I didn't show was I did sand back part of the crinoline, and it's got some of that burlap showing through. And I'm placing the stamp right onto the trowel, pressing firmly and then lifting up. And I have the sepia colored lettering for my background, and I chose to seal it with liquid patina. I also allowed the liquid patina to dry for a couple of hours. Using my finger sander, I went along the edges of the trowel and also the weathered wood. And the weathered wood came off really easily because it doesn't adhere to Vaseline well. So where the Vaseline was on top of the apothecary, I was able to take that weathered wood off fairly easily. So I just went around the whole trowel with the finger sander and gave it a good sanding to kind of get some of that vintage vibe and the apothecary paint to show through. And then using the baby wipe, I was able to wipe off the excess. And I sealed it also with the liquid patina. And I've been working my way through some of my extra stash, so I decided to use an old transfer that I have from Prima. And to be honest, I don't even know the name of it, but I always loved it because it had the birds in kind of that antique colors, and I just never finished using it. So I am using this transfer from Prima. And I don't know if it's because it's a Prima transfer or if my liquid patina hadn't dried all the way, or because the transfers, well, it's over probably a year or two. It's older. It was a little bit more difficult to apply, but I just kept rubbing with the transfer stick and peeling it back and made my way all the way across the surface of the trowel. Once I was able to get that transfer securely applied, I took the back of the transfer and I varnished the transfer by rubbing it, and it just kind of helps adhere the transfer and embeds it into the patina and the paint, just making sure that it's secure. Using liquid patina by DIY, I sealed the transfer onto the project. Please leave a comment below letting me know which one of these projects is your favorite. It's a tough one for me. I can't choose. I would also love to know if you'll be looking for any of these trowels and trying one of these projects yourselves. And if you found this video inspirational, please hit subscribe below and follow me along on my creative journey. Thank you.